Hello everybody, this is Kirby over Yonder, and oh boy, for a show that makes up about half of my username, I really don't talk about Wander over Yonder that much. But the truth is, for the longest time, I wasn't really sure how I wanted to talk about the show. But with it being 4 years since I officially decided that I hate Disney, I think now would be the best time to do a retrospective on the series as a whole. Wander Over Yonder premiered on Disney Channel in September of 2013, with a sneak peek releasing the month before. The show was created by Craig McCracken, the same creator as the Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends on Cartoon Network. The plot of the show is very simple, almost insultingly so. It's about a guy named Wander and his friend Sylvia going around and helping people. Again, it's very simple, but it doesn't need to be anything more than that. There's a level of beauty in its simplicity. The reason why this premise is so simple is because when pitching the show, Craig wanted it to be about the characters. The show isn't about where Wander and Sylvia live, it's about Wander and Sylvia. People don't love SpongeBob because he lives underwater, they love SpongeBob because he's SpongeBob. The characters are Wander Over Yonder. If you don't like them, then you probably won't like the show itself. So let's talk about the characters. The show stars Wander, a happy-go-lucky nomad who just wants to help people and have a good time. I love Wander's character. He's super sweet and nice and always looking for the best in people, but at the same time he's not a Mary Sue. His kindness can often lead to other people taking advantage of him, and his curiosity can often get the best of him. Basically, he's a pleasant and fun character to watch, but also has flaws that make him feel like a real person. Plus, he's voiced by Jack McBrayer, who absolutely sells the character. His voice matches pretty much perfectly. But along with Wander, we have Sylvia, who is much more of a no-nonsense type and is quicker to resort to violence. Sylvia grounds Wander, and her realism often clashes with Wander's optimism. But at the same time, you can absolutely see why the two are such good friends. They both make each other better people. Wander makes Sylvia a more caring and empathetic person, while Sylvia makes Wander a more reasonable and cautious person. Their dynamic is one of my favorite aspects of the show, and in my opinion is where the heart of the show lies. Then we have the main villain of the show, Lord Hater, whose main goal is to destroy Wander and become the greatest villain in the galaxy. He definitely falls into the more pathetic villain type, very much like Dr. Doofenshmirtz on Phineas and Ferb. He can go from being genuinely intimidating one moment to just kind of being a petty loser the next moment. Though he definitely gets less intimidating as the show goes on, particularly in Season 2, though we'll get to that later. In some episodes, he acts more like a moody teenager than a genuine villain. Lastly, we have Lord Hater's henchman and leader of the Watchdogs, Commander Peepers. Much like how Sylvia grounds Wander, Commander Peepers grounds Lord Hater, often helping him focus on more serious villainy as opposed to just destroying Wander. I find Commander Peepers to be the least interesting of the four main characters, but that's only really by default. I still really enjoy his dynamic with Lord Hater, plus he's voiced by Tom Kenny. Most episodes of Wander Over Yonder take place on a different planet. This is an aspect of the show that I really enjoy. This is partially because it keeps the focus on the characters, not the location. It doesn't matter where Wander and Sylvia are, what matters is that they're Wander and Sylvia. But I also enjoy this aspect of the show from a variety perspective. To me at least, there's nothing worse than when it feels like a show is repeating itself. And having each episode take place on a different location stops the show from doing that. Yeah, that's right, take that, Brickleberry! Season 1 of Wander Over Yonder mostly consists of one-off episodic stories. They weren't really concerned with character arcs or continuity, just with playing around with these fun characters. There's some really fun cartoonish wackiness to be had here. The art and animation on the show are just top-notch. The background designs are gorgeous and the cartoonish faces are hilarious and really well animated. Another thing I really appreciate about the show is its music. The songs themselves are super catchy and fun, and some of them really get stuck in your head. But I also really appreciate the background music. It's nothing I'd really listen to outside of the show itself, but it's very energetic and usually fits very well with whatever scene it's in. The show also uses a lot of banjo music, which helps it stand out from a lot of other shows. In terms of my favorite episodes from Season 1, these are the first 3 that usually come to mind for me. The Brainstorm. One of the funniest episodes of the entire show, filled to the brim with hilarious vignettes and back and forth between Hater and Peepers. And of course, who could forget Banjo? The Void. An episode that's basically just a playground for the animators to do whatever they want. And they absolutely take advantage of that with some of the most creative visuals in the entire series. Not to mention one of the best songs in the entire show, but my favorite episode of Season 1 would have to go to The Time Bomb. I feel like this is the episode that best shows off the relationship between Yonder and Sylvia. How even though the two are so different, they're able to work together beautifully. How even though most of the time Sylvia is the one saving Yonder, Yonder helps keep Sylvia's emotions in check. The episode also teaches its audience how to keep calm during times of stress, which is something that not many cartoons talk about. And to top it off, the Galactic Conjunction 6000 is one of my favorite locations in the entire show. As far as my least favorite episodes go, there aren't any that I flat out dislike, but there are 2 that come to mind. The Troll. I think the message to just ignore the people who are making fun of you as opposed to feeding into them is a perfectly fine one, especially today with the rise of social media. But that being said, I'm not a big fan of Wander's characterization in this one. Like, instead of telling everybody not to feed the troll, he just kinda does nothing and expects them to figure it out themselves. I think the episode would have worked better if it was about Wander trying to tell everybody to ignore the troll, but instead of listening to him, they just shut him down. Again, I don't think this episode is terrible or even really bad, but I would say it's my least favorite episode of the entire series. I'd also say I'm not a very big fan of the toddler. Again, this one's mostly fine, it's just that it's about taking care of a baby, and thus features a lot of annoying baby noises. But still, it at least has a few funny moments and a decent message. Now that we're done talking about Season 1, let's move on to Season 2. In between Seasons 1 and 2, Wander Over Yonder was moved on to Disney Channel's alternative channel, Disney XD. You know, a channel that was lesser known about and not everybody had. Needless to say, this caused the show to dip in ratings. Gravity Falls was also moved to Disney XD in its second season, but that show had the benefit of literally being a worldwide phenomenon. Wander Over Yonder had a decent-sized fan base, but nowhere near the same level as Gravity Falls. It's not confirmed why exactly the show got cancelled after Season 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of, if not the only reason. It's a shame because in my opinion, Season 2 is just as good, if not better than Season 1. The biggest difference between this season and Season 1 is the addition of the show's newest villain, Lord Dominator, and she is just a fantastic character. She's very similar to the Joker, in the sense that she just revels in being a villain. She doesn't care what she does as long as it's hurting people in some way. She's a very fun villain, but also the first one to feel like a genuine threat. She's a looming threat whose presence is felt throughout the entire season, even in episodes she's not even in, like the family reunion and the legend. Overall, the stakes just feel so much higher than they did in Season 1. However, this also affects the Lord Hater side of things, as he, along with a good chunk of the show's fanbase, develops a crush on Lord Dominator. And it's fun seeing him struggle over wanting to be the greatest villain in the galaxy while also trying to get Dominator to like him. We also get to see him team up with Wander a lot more this season, which is always fun. Overall, I feel like the season did a really good job fleshing Hater out a bit, but also keeping what made him likable in the first place. And I think that accurately describes Season 2 as a whole. It's still Wander Over Yonder, but with a little bit more. Sure, there is a bit of an overarching story throughout the season, but you can still pretty much enjoy any episode on their own. You don't need to watch every episode to understand what's going on in one episode, but it does help to have the context. Now that I'm done talking about the season as a whole, I'll go through a few of my favorite episodes. My Fair Haiti, a musical episode of a show with fantastic musical numbers. All of the songs in this one are fantastic, especially Dominator's I'm the Bad Guy, which is probably the most famous scene in the entire show. This is also another Wander and Hater team-up episode, which is always fun. And overall, the stakes just feel super high in this one. It just feels like a really grand scale episode, debatably more so than the series finale. The Flower. Easily one of the most emotional episodes of the entire series. It's rare we ever get to see Wander sad, but I think this episode sells it very well. It definitely works as one of the last episodes of the show. The message that it's okay to cry is a very simple one, but one that I feel everyone needs to hear. And the ending is just beautiful. This actually was my favorite episode for the longest time, and while it's not quite my favorite anymore, it's definitely up there. Speaking of which, my favorite episode from both Season 2 and the entire series is The Bot. It's a very simplistic episode, but one that, in my opinion, plays to all the show's greatest strengths. The relationship between Wander and Beep Boop is super charming. And it does a good job showing that even people who grew up in a toxic environment aren't doomed to be bad people. Under the right influence, they can contribute greatly to the lives of others. I also love that the episode actually had the guts to kill off Beep Boop. And the moment feels earned too. The episode did a great job of getting us to sympathize for and root for Beep Boop. And Beep Boop's sacrifice is what solidifies his turn to good. And that moment at the end gives me chills every time. It's an absolutely phenomenal episode, and if you haven't seen it yet, then please check it out. Even if you're not into the show, at the very least, give this one a watch. If I had to pick a least favorite episode from Season 2, again, there really aren't any I dislike, but I'd probably go with the Sick Day. Mostly because of its use of gross out. The gross out genre in general isn't really my thing, and seeing this very disgusting version of Wander is kind of uncomfortable to me. Plus, even when you take that aspect away, the episode as a whole isn't really that interesting. It's just kind of watching Sylvia do Wander's chores. Though I do appreciate a lot of the references to earlier episodes, so this one gets points for that. Wander Over Yonder ended on June 27th of 2016, with the episode The End of the Galaxy, a finale that I feel kinda mixed on. Like, for everything I like about the finale, I feel like there's something that I'm not as big of a fan of. Like, it's cool that we get to see a bunch of characters from earlier episodes team up against Dominator, but it kinda sucks that Wander himself doesn't really get much to do. It's cool that Hater actually does something good for once, but I wish the episode didn't just revert him back to normal by the end. And it's cool that Dominator gets defeated, but man is that cliffhanger in the animatic painful. Overall, I'd say it works decently well as a finale to Season 2, but as a finale to the show as a whole, it's kinda unsatisfying. And obviously this wasn't meant to be the series finale, it just sucks because you can tell that there's so much more that could have been done with the show. New planets to explore, a redemption arc for Lord Hater, and a new villain. But mostly, it just sucks that we won't be able to see these characters again. These likable, funny, interesting characters that I've grown so attached to. Because this show was, and still is, my comfort show. It's the show I watch when I'm feeling down. It's a show that I can always trust will make me laugh and smile. It's a show that helps me see the good in the world. A show that helps bring at least a little bit of light into the horrible year that is 2020. And I don't think I'm the only one out there that feels this way. There's a lot of people out there that are still begging Disney for a Season 3, and I think that's wonderful. Will Wander ever come back one day? I don't know, probably not. The fact that it's still not on Disney Plus isn't really doing it any favors. Seriously, y'all have the Timon and Pumbaa show, but not this? But hey, if Clone High can come back, anything's possible. Even if Wander Over Yonder never comes back, I'm still thankful for the 2 excellent seasons we did get. And hey, there's still other shows out there right now that carry on its spirit. Green Eggs and Ham, Owl House, Final Space, the DuckTales reboot, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. These shows will never truly replace Wander Over Yonder, but they're definitely good substitutes. I also run an out-of-context Wander Over Yonder Twitter account if you're looking for more Wander content, so there's that, I guess. But yeah, thanks for watching my big ol' Wander Over Yonder retrospective. If you have any thoughts on the show or want to share your favorite episodes or just want to talk about the show in any way, shape, or form, please do so in the comments. Stay safe, have a good day, and remember, it never hurts to help.